A well-behaved woman is trim and proper. Chores, always done, not a hair out of place. When the husband comes home, she greets him with a smile.
I'm sorry, what the fuck?
Are you tired of Hitler?
Have you no shame?
Okay, one liar as a kid can find another liar.
I want that stricken from the record.
How else is she gonna learn if she doesn't have a feather?
I can go fuck in the big house.
You're a mess, girl. I am here to audition for Babysitter's Club extras.
I brought my own hammer.
And that has been Pokemon Corner.
Pokemon Corner. Well, yeah. So I'm looking forward to later today trying again.
I'll give you some tips. Chris and I have dozens
Shiny
and
hunting,
dozens
I know,
and
is like
dozens of shinies.
you have to have patience, and I do not.
I'm really hoping a subset of the 33 people that listen are into Pokemons.
I'm sure at least one
Adult
is.
nerds, hit us up.
Yay!
If you're listening to a history podcast by 3 people that are sitting in a trailer, you're already nerds. So
Yeah, but nerds are a good
that's
thing.
a pretty safe bet.
Nerds are good things now. Everybody wants to
it's
be
a
a
good
nerd.
thing.
As long as you're not a narc.
Liking, enjoying learning is not a bad thing. Never
Well, it's
has
not
been.
even just about learning. It's also about gaming.
Yes.
What do we call it? Learn entertainment, something like that.
Entertainment.
Edutainment. Edutainment.
Yeah. There it is. Learning-tainment. I'm an idiot.
God.
No, you're not. You were close.
Had the main parts, I guess. Had the big picture.
synonym?
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, ladies, gents, everybody in between, babies, everybody, to another episode of Well-Behaved Women. For all you cravers of knowledge and silly nonsense, we are back together, all 3 of us. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome to Well-Behaved Women, a podcast about badass biatches of history, whether they be for evil or for good, their forces. And tell us what we're learning about, Lauren.
All right.
Who's the old lady that we're learning about today?
So we know who the old lady is that we're learning about today.
Oh, yes.
Continuation.
This is a continuation. Last week was rough. I get that.
I see the book has arrived.
The book has arrived.
Emotionally distressing.
I feel like it should be in the middle.
Yeah. So both of you now know that this is coming, and I can promise that it's going to get better, but we've got to get through some dark shit first. So I brought some little tension. I got some jokes. We'll have some insults. So when we get really angry at the white people that
think you
are
should put the
doing
book of insults.
horrendous things, just open up to any of these bookmark pages, and we will
Yeah, just
insult
put it in
some
the middle
fuckers.
so anybody can touch it at any time.
There you go.
And that is our signal where it's insult
Tap
time.
in, tap
And then
out,
it'll be,
like, I
it's
need
time
this.
for an
I need
insult
this.
break.
I also have a couple jokes that I've written down, so we'll just take it as it comes. It's going to get uncomfortable, but I promise it will get better. But not yet. So, do we want to start with an on this year?
On this year in history.
Well, wait, really quick. What's the recap? Just like a mini recap of what we talked about last week.
So, Ida B. Wells was born in the South, and she grew up in, I think Mississippi or Louisiana and Memphis. And then, gosh, it has been a couple of weeks since we've recorded this.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's been a little while. Yeah.
Refresher.
She grows up in the post-slavery South. Right at the beginning of Jim Crow laws, there is a ton of lynchings, and she helps own, and I don't think she owns, but I think she helps run a newspaper that's in Memphis that's like a Black-owned newspaper, and they release a statistic of how many lynchings over the last week, how many men falsely accused of raping white women, all of that. And so a bunch of white guys get really upset, and they go and burn it to the ground. Yeah.
That's where we left off?
That's where we left off.
Okay.
Fire.
Yep.
So basically they just got burnt to the ground for telling the truth.
Yep.
Yep. That's exactly what happened.
True
All
story.
right. That's the vibe that we're starting off with.
Well.
All right. So on this year in history, the St. Patrick's Day snowstorm besieges Tennessee with upwards of 26 inches of snow, establishing accumulation records that still stand.
Jeez.
The world's first fingerprinting bureau is formally opened by the Buenos Aires chief of police, and it's been operating unofficially since the previous year. The Limelight Department, later one of the world's first film studios, is established in Melbourne, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And the Homestead Strike begins in Homestead, Pennsylvania, culminating in a battle between striking workers and private security agents on July 6th.
I have no guesses. I can't remember what year we left off in.
The Homestead should have given it away a little bit.
I forget what that really is.
It's the early 1900s or late 1800s. Turn of the century vibes.
I'll just go 1901.
Okay, you got 1901.
It's a random guess I'm throwing out there.
I'm trying to think of I to B, Jim Crow laws.
Oh, Jim Crow laws, duh.
I'll just guess 1960. I don't know. My brain's not working.
So we're sitting in 1892. So
See, I was right, and then
you both fucked up. Yeah.
It's always first guess, best guess. You know, I said 1890s, 1900, and then I fucking did check myself.
That's okay. This is just another reminder that we should all go with our gut if we have a gut feeling.
Yep.
All right.
So when we last left Ida, her friend and his 2 employees, the grocery store people, had just been lynched by a mob of 75 cowardly white asshats.
I think we just
you want to start
real
off
quick because I feel like since we didn't have an insult for them last episode, we should start off
with a couple strong
ones.
ones.
Think of them.
Yeah.
Just gonna go to.
There's also like chapters where it's like
Meanies.
jerks. Meanies. There you go.
Okay. Well.
So this is something that you two last week had a big thing about.
Huh?
This book?
Well, she had brought it.
Oh, God, no. I brought it thinking that we were going to get to this episode last week. And so when you didn't make it and we did a different episode. But I was prepared. I even, marked some down, bookmarked them. And just so we can have a moment of respite.
Trying to find the right chapter for this one. Where's murderers? I need murderers. Let's go with losers. That's
there
close
you go.
enough.
Losers.
Well, how about this? How about something I hope for this person at some point in their life?
Yeah.
I hope that at some time when he went to the doctor to get a flu shot, it works real well. He got the flu.
There you go.
That's a really softball one, but, we're going in there.
All right.
See, we would have just called them cousin fuckers, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's probably closer to what I wanted to say.
This big book of insults needs work.
Yeah, that deep in the South, it's all sister fuckers now.
Louis Saran.
We'll find a time and place for the right one, but I would say...
Step your game up, Louis.
Yeah.
She'd already been increasing her coverage of injustices against the blacks in the South, and I will get to those specifics here in a few minutes. As these reports got published, the white crowds got whipped up into a lather, and then she published the quote about the reputations.
Lather, rinse, repeat. Here we go again.
Yep. When she basically published the thing about the reputations of white women and white men, that was the last straw for them.
Of course. How dare she?
4 days after the Free Speech published Wells's argument against the lie that black men rape white women, a white paper in the air... Oh, big trigger warning for this entire episode. It's going to be talking about interracial violence against lots of people, both actual attacks and also false accusations, and it's going to be rough.
Well, false accusations against black men at this time and
about raping white women,
getting convicted of it because of racial tensions and racial violence and hatred.
Right.
So there's a lot of heart-wrenching stuff ahead.
So 4 days after they published argument against that, a white paper in the area published their own response.
Oh, God. The Daily Commercial says, the fact that a black scoundrel is allowed to live and utter such loathsome and repulsive calumnies is a volume of evidence as to the wonderful patience of Southern whites, but we've had enough of it.
Yeah. I feel disgusting hearing that.
It's so bad. It gets worse. It gets worse.
They're just living.
The Evening Scimitar in Memphis copied that and added this comment.
Oh, great.
Patience under such circumstances is not a virtue, and if the Negroes themselves do not apply their remedy without delay, it will be the duty of those whom he has attacked to tie the wretch who utters these calumnies to a stake at the intersection of Main and Madison Streets, brand him in the forehead, and with a hot iron perform upon him a surgical operation with a pair of tailor's shears.
Okay, real quick, can you sum up what side is this man on? I can't tell.
He's racist as fuck.
So
the
what
second
he's
guy, the guy
so
who
what he's
retweeted.
saying.
Both of these are racist. Both
I just
of these
wanted to double
quotes
check
are-
because I
yeah.
couldn't tell. There's just I couldn't tell really quick because it's just that language is so old and the phrasings, and I got twisted. I couldn't tell what side this man was on, but he's violent. I know that.
Yeah, everybody's always trying to make themselves sound smarter than they are. Basically, he's advocating for physical violence and torture.
Against black people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
For having the gall to say that black people are getting murdered for no reason
Or as a punishment for these alleged rapes.
that didn't actually happen.
It's false accusation. Yeah, I'm just double checking.
It's just a bunch of hooey, but it's racist
Just-
hooey.
Yeah.
Just wanted to double check through all of the flowery language that he used. What the fuck he's trying to say.
Yeah, well, it's very like Southern debutante.
So they marched themselves to the newspaper. They ransacked the whole place. They destroyed the entire building and everything inside of it. James Fleming, who had co-owned the paper with Ida, was run out of town. Literally, like he had to flee the city. The mob took over the building. They sold everything of worth off to whoever. And by some absolute insane stroke of luck, Ida had been in New York on vacation at the time. When she learned the trains were being watched for her, she decided to hang out for a while in New York. Quote, letters and telegrams sent me in New York where I was spending my vacation advised me that bodily harm awaited my return. Creditors took possession of the office and sold the outfit, and the free speech was as if it had never been.
Mm-hmm.
It was like in the blink of an eye, this thing that she'd worked for many years, gone. Bright lights, big city, no bombs of angry people threatening your very existence if you go home. New York was fine for just a moment. Quote, a committee of white businessmen, reportedly from the Cotton Exchange, located Reverend Nightingale, a man who had used to be part of the newspaper but no longer was. And although he sold his interest to Wells and Fleming in 1891, they assaulted him and forced him at gunpoint to sign a letter retracting the May 21 editorial.
Sure.
Obviously. The committee of terrible humans, they never got charged, nor was anyone ever brought to justice for the murders of her friend and his employees or the destroying of the newspaper building.
Sounds familiar
Yep.
to today. Although good news for current times, Derek Chauvin got stabbed in prison, although unfortunately
22 times.
I know.
Damn, I didn't know that many times.
It was
Yeah,
a
but,
beautiful
like,
thing.
You got stabbed with like a toothbrush shiv, so like
Yeah, it's
gonna
karma.
take.
But
yeah.
unfortunately,
But that's
now
a lot of
man's-
pinpricks to leak out of very slowly.
It's not gonna kill you.
No, but it is going to hurt you,
Yeah.
and that was the point.
Oh no, for sure. And the guy
Good.
had been planning it for months, which is hilarious. And he's just like some old fat white guy, just hilarious. Just like his mugshot, like the updated like.
Is it the one where
smiling.
he's just smiling, where he's
Yeah.
like happy about it?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Anyway,
Sorry.
so we were talking about the newspaper getting burned down. The mob came over, and basically
yes.
none of them ever saw any
False
sort of-
accusations up the yin yang.
Yes.
Yes, and they kept getting punished for telling the truth.
Yes, and Ida luckily was in New York on vacation, so she stayed there.
She's like, I can't go back right now.
Yeah, she lucked out.
Right. Well, and she was told under no circumstances, like, to ever return. They were watching the train stations for her to come back.
Sheesh.
Fuck. They got her poster up?
Yeah, probably.
Basically, it was
Fuck.
like there were people watching the train station if she ever set foot in that town again.
It's like
Ooh, I
1892,
hate
so it's
that
like
feeling.
hand drawn posters of her. You know.
Yeah, but she was well
It's like
known
Flynn
by
Rider. I keep getting my nose wrong.
but she was well known by that point because she owned the fucking paper, so
Yeah,
people
True.
knew what she looked like.
Yeah, I guess that's very true.
She was a fairly wealthy woman, black woman in Memphis in
Oh,
the
people knew
1890s.
her.
So like people knew her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't she buy part of the news? She's a
Yeah, she was a part owner.
Yeah.
Basically, they were like, "You got to be done with this. Just leave it alone." And obviously, we're talking about her, so she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't done with the incident. It had pissed her off so badly. A friend of hers had died at the hand of absolute morons. And
Yeah.
so she did what any self-respecting woman would do when their best friends were murdered, their livelihood destroyed, and their life was threatened. She used the best resources her life had provided to her brains, her connections, and her talent for writing. So
Yep.
she wrote.
Use that brain, girl.
And she wrote.
And she wrote. And she wrote.
And she wrote some
And she
more.
wrote.
Murder, she wrote.
Maybe.
She did write. Murder,
wrote
she
about
wrote
murder.
so
Mayhaps
much.
indeed.
She wrote so much about murder. The New York Times published parts of the articles that had started the whole thing in the first place, along with a commentary about what was actually happening throughout the South. She gathered all the data she had been compiling for years of writing. She interviewed people where she could or read letters that were mailed to her, and she wrote and wrote and wrote. On October 5th, there was a large fundraiser where women came together and donated all the money she needed to print this pamphlet.
Excellent.
By the end of October, she had a letter from Frederick Douglass to add to it, and so she did. All this organized and set up, the New York Age printed this little pamphlet. It was basically a little booklet, and it was being handed out to anyone who would take it. It was sold for 15 cents, and it was called Southern Horrors: Lynch Law in All Its Phases.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's just no mistaking what this is about.
Ah, yeah.
You know exactly, and it is up front and center. People are it's gonna be talked about.
Southern Horrors.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Front page news.
It's not front page news. It's like, here is an extra piece of information if you want to read about it. The pamphlet spelled out the incident, the causations, the fallout, the following news articles, and then went into stories. Many, many stories about the repeated and causeless violence committed against black men in particular.
Mm-hmm.
She also managed to point out the extreme double standard to that point. You see, where black men and white women fucking meant automatically that he was the rapist and she was the victim, white men could rape black women with impunity, as they always had, and could say it was consensual and that the black woman was some sort of temptress or Jezebel.
Oh my God. So backwards. Because they're like, oh, it's consensual.
Well, it's
But
just it's a
not.
man's
I mean,
world. You know,
exactly.
a white man's world.
It's a white man's world, yeah.
World, and he can use that power to say, oh no, she's into it when she's absolutely not.
Yeah, of course.
And yet the other way around, white woman could be well into a wonderful, loving relationship with a black man, but that automatically turns into rape.
And if I could just say, this shit still happens.
Yeah. This has not gotten better in many...
You're right, because I recently saw on TikTok somebody's just like, yeah, we're in an interracial relationship, and this is what we get. We hear this constantly.
Yeah,
and they
it's
were
crazy.
Like, just,
she's a TikToker. She probably has... I think she has an OnlyFans. I don't know, but she murdered her boyfriend.
Oh shit!
Yeah, well, she's like this blonde bimbo, and her boyfriend was this huge jacked black dude. I don't remember.
I remember this story.
I don't remember either of their names, but basically, like they got into a fight in their apartment, and she stabbed him.
Oh my God!
And he fucking died. And there's like multiple accounts, like she's claiming self-defense, blah blah blah. There's multiple accounts, neighbors in their apartment building that all have been like, yeah, no, their relationship was abusive as fuck in both. Like,
yeah,
he hit her, she hit him. Like, there's video footage of like them in an elevator, and she's like wailing on him.
Fuck.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. But like that was the thing. She's trying to like be the fucking victim when she's just as toxic as however he was.
Yeah, exactly. Which white men do all the time.
Yeah, it turns out white women too. Lots of people.
Yeah, people all over, but I mean,
people.
especially during this time that we're talking about, definitely white men, but yeah, people today.
But, you know, look alive. It's still out there.
Yeah, yep.
White men were rarely, if ever, punished for their actual violence against black women on a regular basis and publicly made a spectacle of their actual violent actions against black men. Like, it was just out there, and it was celebrated, and it was a nice public, like, it's like the fucking town square of executions.
I just can't wrap my head around this. This is, what a fucking world.
Here are some quotes from the pamphlet, and most of the quotes about this topic are straight from this as well. I'm going to have you read, from the editorial down to White Delilah's.
All right, editorial.
White Delilah's, is that a slur?
Well, I guess we're going to
you'll see.
The editorial in question was prompted by the many inhuman and fiendish lynchings of Afro-Americans which have recently taken place and was meant as a warning. 8 lynched in 1 week and 5 of them charged with rape. The thinking public will not easily believe freedom and education more brutalizing than slavery. And the world knows that the crime of rape was unknown during 4 years of civil war, when the white women of the South were at the mercy of the race, which is all at once charged with being a bestial one. Since my business has been destroyed and I am in an exile from home because of that editorial, the issue has been forced, and as the writer of it, I feel that the race and the public generally should have a statement of the facts as they exist. They will serve at the same time as a defense for the Afro-American Samsons who suffer themselves to be betrayed by white Delilahs. Yeah, watch out for the white women as well.
The white Delilahs.
So she went on to share the details of certain stories, situations she says that she sees all too often.
Yeah.
One specific story published in 1892 is about a woman, Mrs. J.S. Underwood from Ohio, who accused a black man of rape. She told her minister husband that in 1888, when he'd been out of town, quote, the man came to the kitchen door, forced his way into the house, and insulted her. She tried to drive him out with a heavy poker, but he overpowered and chloroformed her.
Whoa.
And when she revived, her clothing was torn and she was in a horrible condition.
He just busted in with chloroform. Like, he didn't do it in a stealth. Yeah, he goes, hey, and like comes at her with
That's
the chloroform.
Here's Johnny. That's what that is.
Here's Johnny.
Well-
Chloroform. Like,
And this is the kicker, is that she didn't know the man, but she could identify him. She was able to pick him out of a lineup kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh, is that your guy? That's the guy.
Is this
It's
the
just-
assailant?
I just find it so strange that somebody uses such an aggressive upfront attack for
Yeah.
chloroform.
It's like guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, like I don't want to give. I mean, everybody knows that generally if you're using chloroform from TV and movies.
Oh,
like,
what does
the
it do?
best way- yeah, let me talk about how much I know.
Yeah,
about
no.
chloroform.
How do I do this?
Well, you get it right now. But basically, it's like if you're going to try to catch someone and then you don't want them to see you,
You come up behind them.
Yeah, you obviously
Yeah.
want them unconscious.
Oh,
'cause
really?
you,
Is that okay?
That's what you come up behind.
behind
Yeah,
them.
I'm
with
taking
the
notes.
chloroform. Yeah.
You find ways to just like do it by surprise, so they're not going to catch you, see you, or pick you up in a lineup. So
Or
it's
like,
just very
here, have my
strange.
tissue and blow your nose.
And it's
then
very
breathe deep.
strange for someone to just come into the house of someone they don't know. It's usually like you would think it's somebody you
Yeah.
know. Like,
Listen, I've been watching a lot of Criminal Minds lately, so
have you?
I'm an expert. Let me profile this.
okay.
So she pointed at a man named William Offit, who was married, and immediately denied the charge.
Mm-hmm.
In Ohio,
I'm married. I couldn't have.
I got a ring.
Uh-huh.
Physically can't.
So in Ohio at the time, as a black man, he was allowed a trial for this type of accusation. He didn't deny that they had sex, but he admitted to quote unquote criminal intimacy, which means that they had interracial fucking.
relations.
Hilarious.
Right. But
Criminal intimacy. That sounds like a band or an album name.
Right. But Mrs. Underwood, he assured them, had been the one to come on to him.
Uh-huh.
She had come on to me.
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
So basically, I wonder what happened. Why'd she get mad at him to go back and accuse him of this? That's a good question here.
Also, where's the proof of the chloroform?
What?
There's no such thing
Yeah.
as evidence in this
Does
day
a
and age.
chloroform burn?
I mean, well, I just mean like, how do you? Did you tear your clothes? Like, how investigating wasn't
time
what
was
is?
it?
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't what it is now.
No way.
DNA wasn't even
basically, she was
invented
like-
until the fucking 70s.
DNA wasn't invented.
Basically, she's like, hey, husband, remember when you were gone back in 1888? That guy raped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 years
It
later,
wasn't,
I'm just going to pick him
lonely
out.
And I think he's attractive, and we had an affair for a little bit, and then I guess I got upset about it. Nope. This was absolutely, he just charged into my home.
All right. I'm going to have you read This Availed Him Nothing and then end at These Are Her Words.
Okay.
I'm going to have her read that next
Wait,
paragraph.
I want to be a lady.
And then
How
come
dare you?
back. Well,
We don't
no,
know his
it's-
lady voice.
Both of these are her words. So this is Ida writing,
All
and
right.
this is the lady's. This
I
is
can still be a
Underwood's
lady
story.
then. Fine.
So you get to be the first lady, and then she's the second
Ooh,
lady.
first
Your
lady.
first lady.
Yeah.
Big B, the first lady.
Big B, first lady.
This availed him nothing against the sworn testimony of a minister's wife, a lady of the highest respectability.
Of course.
She was found guilty and entered the penitentiary. He was found guilty and entered the penitentiary December 14th, 1888. I can't read either.
It was 1988.
I know.
The hair.
Oh, God. It could have happened in 1988. That's the problem.
That's the issue, yeah.
For 15 years. Sometime afterwards, the woman's remorse led her to confess to her husband that the man was innocent.
All right, so these are her words. That middle paragraph right
words.
there.
Tell us what she said.
All right.
These are the words of Mrs. J.S. Underwood,
the respectable quote unquote.
the respectable minister's wife.
Minister's wife.
Yeah, no, she's a minister's wife. She couldn't have gotten horny while he was gone.
Tempted
Get
by
to it.
All right, sorry.
Tempted by that horny black devil.
What did she say?
I met Offutt at the post office. It was raining. He was polite to me, and as I had several bundles in my arms, he offered to carry them home for me, which he did. He had a strange fascination for me, and I invited him to call on me. He called, bringing chestnuts and candy for the children. Okay.
Sounds like a real lady killer.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, chestnuts, you know what I like.
Well,
By this means we got them to leave us alone in the room.
yeah, he got the candy and the chestnuts
Yeah,
to keep,
there
get,
it
to
is,
keep
to
the
distract
kids
them.
busy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Chalk candy, guys.
Why don't you guys go play over there and eat this candy?
Then I sat on his lap. He made a proposal to me, and I readily consented. Why?
Like, hey,
He asked for consent. Hell yeah.
you want to do some of that fucking?
Why I
Real
did
Housewives
so.
of the Racist South.
Oh, goodness. All right. Why I did so, I do not know, but that I did is true.
Mm-hmm.
He visited me several times after that, and each time I was indiscreet. I did not care after that first time. In fact, I could not have resisted and had no desire to resist.
Why don't you go black?
It sounds like she wanted to keep coming back.
Oh, she totally wanted to keep. She totally wanted to keep coming back.
I'm going to guess that he started to go, no, this has gone far enough.
Yeah, probably. Or his wife found out or something.
Or that, yeah, that's also another option.
Wait. We heard that right, correctly? That he was married as well?
He was also married.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah.
he came over and was fucking her.
They were both dipping
They were
their
both-
toes in the affair.
Oh, they're dipping
Exactly.
something.
Well, yeah, dipping their wicks, if you will.
There it is.
There it is.
Hey.
Dipping his wick in her oil.
Oh, let's turn her wax.
Old lanterns used oil.
All right.
Old lanterns did use oil.
Now you
yes,
made
I'm
it
thinking
gross.
making candles.
What?
I said now you made it
What,
gross.
old lanterns?
All of it. It's terrible. I don't want to picture any of it.
Nope. I'm gonna keep it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I'm gonna
we're
hold
keeping
on to
it.
that
I
image.
like it.
Oh, well, now I know what you two are into.
When asked by her husband, this is still part of the quote. When asked by her husband why she told him she had been outraged, she said, quote, I had several reasons for telling you. One was the neighbors saw the fellows here. Another was I was afraid I had contracted a loathsome disease. And still another was that I feared I might give birth to a Negro baby.
Oh, my God.
I hoped to save...
Worst of all. What a...
If you were worried about getting pregnant because you're racist, then don't...
It gets worse. I hoped to save my reputation by
my
telling
God.
you a deliberate lie.
Well, yeah.
Bitch.
That's pretty obvious.
Bitch.
For his part, her husband was horrified by the confession, and so he went and had Offutt, who had already been serving for 4 fucking years,
Oh my
released, and he secured a divorce from her. He
That's
was
the
like,
least he
nah,
could do.
fuck you.
He was in there for 4 years?
Yeah, this was 1888 to 1892.
You know, I'm just
Before
glad.
he was even... she
that's-
told.
Yeah, I'm just glad that he was let go. That they actually said,
Yep.
yeah, I want him released.
This is one of the
'cause it didn't
few
happen.
times we're going to get into that, like, someone actually went back and did right.
I'm shocked.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know. I wasn't expecting that.
I needed to give you guys a little bit of positivity,
No,
okay?
it's nice. Yeah, it's a palate cleanser.
In another story, a white woman ran away from her white family with the black coachman. She just straight up abandoned her kids to
The
be with him.
coachman.
The coachman.
Ma'am,
the
you
bus
don't
driver?
abandon your kids. Sorry.
She loved
With the
him
taxi man.
Yeah.
with the tax.
That's what a coachman is. He
I
drives
know.
a wagon.
He was driving Miss Daisy all
fucking
around
hilarious.
town.
Driving Miss Daisy has a whole new meaning.
Wow. He's gonna
Give me
drive-
your answer due. That's a different song, isn't it?
It is still Daisy.
It's Daisy. That is
Give
true.
me your
The
answer,
name-
due. Yeah, no, that was right.
Went 2001 with it.
So they were gone together for a month before the husband found her and he brought her back.
Wow.
I'd love to know that conversation.
The coachman,
Brought her back. What the fuck?
he brought her back to the home,
Leave her there.
and the coachman was never
I
found.
imagine he's like,
Oh, well, there you go.
imagine he's like, honey, all right, I got you now.
He sent banditos after him.
Just,
Yeah.
Step away from the taxi man and come home to your kids. You remember your kids.
Take the dick out of your mouth.
So the coachman was never found, and the husband took the wife and kids, and he moved to another city to practice medicine under a different name.
Wow.
Was there even a coachman at all then?
Yeah,
yeah, 'cause
she had
anybody
run
could
away
be a
with him.
doctor.
Are they sure? Because if he was never found, maybe he never existed.
No, they
No, they
fucking
for sure
him.
killed him.
Oh shit! Then never mind. I went.
They murdered the fuck out of him.
See, this is what we mean.
yeah, it's
Not
what you're
clueless,
right.
just naive.
You're
Maybe
so
I should
innocent.
watch
and
Not
Parks and
clueless, just naive.
Yeah.
Maybe I really should watch Parks and Rec
Yeah.
just to get to know myself better.
There you go. It's a good self-analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Ann Perkins.
Yes.
I'm getting Peacock on my TV.
Another story told of a white woman who came running out into the street and she had her clothes torn. She screamed it was a black guy down the street who had assaulted her.
That happens
my
today.
God.
They took him in, they had him questioned, and basically had to let him go because they couldn't find a shred of evidence to support her claim.
It's just like I could see that headline today.
Yep.
That somebody is
Got falsely arrested.
and they just claimed it's black guys.
Yep.
Or black people in general, but I think just always
So
black
maybe
guys.
don't believe all women? Is that what you two are trying to say?
No, it's not,
it's a very
it's not even just-
complicated.
Is that what
like
you're
we're
trying to
talking about
say?
here.
No.
But that's part of the thing is like
men do it
not
too.
only is it
White men.
not only is it like gender v gender, it's also like race v race.
Yeah, it sounds like
And
you're
it
backtracking.
goes back and forth.
No.
Just people lie. People are fucking liars.
I'm
That's
just
what it
fucking- I'm
is.
just fucking
men
around.
have
It's terrible.
claimed that it's like he got jumped by a bunch of black dudes, but
Hey.
it's like he got beat up by a woman.
Some people suck. That's the
He
moral of
got
the
beat up
story.
by a girl.
and he wants to save his reputation.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Another story of a girl who stole money from her father to send her black boyfriend away up north to escape her dad. And then she took off later and had since moved in with him.
Uh-huh.
Yep. In another case, I'm going to have you read Sarah Clark Marshall.
In another case, Sarah Clark of Memphis loved a black man and lived openly with him. When she was indicted last spring for
Miscegenation.
miscegenation, thank you. I was like, I have not ever seen that word. What
Miscegenation.
does it mean?
Fuck. I think it's like it's bad. It's like where am I? Fuck is my phone?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody get your phones.
There are people, whoever the 4 people are that listen to this are screaming.
Someone definitely knows
I
the
knew what
answer,
this
and it's
was
just
when I
like,
wrote the script. I promise.
I know.
How do you spell it?
MISCEGENATION.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like infidelity. Sexual relationships or reproduction between people of different ethnic groups. Yeah. Especially when one of them
interracial.
is white. Hilarious.
Isn't that what I said? I think I said like
Yeah, yeah.
interracial fucking.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so when she was indicted last spring for miscegenation, she swore in court that she was not a white woman. We need Maury at that moment.
See, I want to know what the root of that word is now because it doesn't even make sense.
English is weird. But this she did to escape the penitentiary and continued her illicit relation undisturbed. That she is of the lower class of whites does not disturb the fact that she is a white woman. The leading citizens of Memphis are defending the honor of all white women, demi-monde included.
Which is like promiscuous people, like
Yeah.
even the promiscuous women of the town.
Yeah, also this.
Or
Jesus
even the,
Christ.
like, vaguely white women of the town.
Yeah, like basically any white woman is still gonna get more protections
yeah.
than a black woman.
Yeah. Even though she's
I
not like the
Googled
whitest.
Miscegenation, like
Yeah.
the root without the miss part of
Yeah.
it in the front of it. And I got to Urban Dictionary, and boy, oh boy, is the entry racist.
Oh shit!
Wow. Segenators.
Well, that's Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, segenators are people who mix race, allegedly.
Okay.
And the sentence they use for as an example
Oh,
is,
God.
yeah, there's,
Oh, no. Oh God!
Just read it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
she was hanging with the segenators and some other muds.
Oh fuck.
Ufta.
Man, that's about as close to a slur as you can get, huh?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Actually,
Without actually being one.
nope. I'm
it
gonna
might even
actually have you read this one. and
Oh,
it's-
great. You're going to make everyone think
Oh,
I'm the
gonna
racist
no,
now.
I'm gonna make
Awesome.
you read a worse
Yep,
one.
it's
yeah.
me. I'm the
So-
problem.
Oh no!
I told you guys this is gonna get racist and it's
Oh,
gonna get bad. So
no.
I'm sorry.
We've
Everything
gotta
in red.
discuss
So
it.
Well, shit.
We've gotta discuss.
Just everybody remember, I didn't do this. I didn't say
Yeah, these are
it.
quotes.
we have to
from-
talk about it.
Yeah.
This is the part of history that gets uncomfortable. That's
History
like
is uncomfortable.
it is.
I'm just saying, don't take me out of context.
Yeah. No.
He is
clippage.
reading directly from the Memphis Ledger, which was that was published June 8th,
Oh, cool. I can use
1892.
the voice again. Memphis. Nice.
Yeah.
If a little Bailey, a rather pretty white girl, 17 years of age, who is now at the city hospital, would be somewhat less reserved about her disgrace, there would be some very nauseating details in the story of her life. She is oh, Jesus fucking
Yep.
Christ.
You gotta. I'm sorry.
Says she's the mother of a little coon. Moving on. The truth might reveal fearful depravity, or it might reveal the evidence of a rank outrage. She will not divulge the name of the man who has left such black evidence of her disgrace, and in fact says it is a matter in which there can be no interest to the outside world. She came to Memphis nearly 3 months ago and was taken in at the women's refuge in the southern part of the city. She remained there until a few weeks ago when the child was born. The ladies in charge of the refuge were horrified. The girl was at once sent to the city hospital where she has since been since May the 30th. She's a country girl, came to Memphis from her father's farm a short distance from Hernando, Mississippi. Just when she left there, she would not say. In fact, she says she came to Memphis from Arkansas and says her home state is that state. She's rather good looking, has blue eyes, a low forehead, and dark red hair. The ladies at the woman's refuge do not know anything about the girl further than what they learned when she was an inmate of the institution, and she would not tell much. When the child was born, an attempt was made to get the girl to reveal the name of the Negro who had disgraced her, but she obstinately refused, and she was impossible to elicit any information from on the subject. Christ almighty.
So basically, they're just like, well, she's pregnant. She's had a mixed race child. This is clearly either she's a depraved whore or
she was raped. Yes.
There's no chance that she was in love with
Your
someone.
only options.
Yeah, those are the only.
Tell us who did this to you.
And she won't give him up because it's very likely she was mystery option 3. She was in love with someone and that she just was trying to, I think, have her child out of state.
Yeah, or just, trying to be a human in love with another human, knowing what the laws were, because you can't get around everything. But that's fucked.
Oh, shit.
All right, I'm going to give you one last quote just to really hammer
One more
this whole
racist
thing
quote. Here we go.
All right.
Hit me.
In Nashville, Tennessee, there is a white man, Pat Hannafin, who outraged a little Afro-American girl, and from the physical injuries received, she has been ruined for life. He was jailed for 6 months, discharged, and is now a detective in that city.
What?
In the same city last May, a white man outraged an Afro-American girl in a drugstore. He was arrested and released on bail at the trial. It was rumored that 500 Afro-Americans had organized to lynch him. 250 white citizens armed themselves with Winchesters and guarded him.
What?
A cannon was placed in front of his home, and the Buchanan Rifles, which means the state militia,
The Buchanan Cannons.
ordered to the scene for his protection. The Afro-American mob did not materialize. Only 2 weeks before Ephraim Gizzard, who had only been charged with rape upon a white woman, had been taken from the jail, with Governor Buchanan and the police militia standing by, dragged through the streets in broad daylight, knives plunged into him at every step, and with every fiendish cruelty a frenzied mob could devise, he was at last swung out on the bridge, with hands cut to pieces as he tried to climb up the stanchions. A naked, bloody example of the bloodthirstiness of the 19th century civilization of the Athens of the South.
Oh, God.
No cannon or military was called out in his defense. He dared to visit a white woman. At the very moment these civilized whites were announcing their determination, quote, to protect their wives and daughters, unquote, by murdering Gizzard, a white man was in the same jail for raping an 8-year-old Maggie Reese, an Afro-American girl. He was not harmed. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the
Pedophile. Disgusting pedophile.
And, yeah.
He was not harmed. The, quote, honor of grown women who were glad enough to be supported by the Gizzard boys and Ed Coy, as long as the liaison was not known, needed protection. They were white. The outrage upon helpless childhood needed no avenging in this case. She was black.
So fucking ironic that it's the rapist who's trying to defend the honor of the white women. And he's a pedophile and a rapist and he's a predator. Fuck off, dude.
Why don't they play poker in the jungle?
They don't have cards?
Too many cheetahs.
Cheetahs live on the plains. Boo.
They were really
I see what you're
stretching
doing
with
there.
that one.
All
There
right.
you go. All right. On and on and on this goes because it's just a fucking pamphlet of information of just raw. Basically, she took all of this raw data
Case
and
1, case 2, case
literally,
3.
yes.
Yeah.
In case it wasn't driven home more, we are going to compound that fucking point.
Here we go.
So, before she had been just a commentator, Ida had fully transformed her talents into investigative journalism. She laid out page after page of false accusation and the evidence garnered over time to prove that those accusations were indeed bullshit. This is basically the birth of investigative journalism.
All
Had
right.
to be Wells, PI.
Excellent.
For real.
I love investigative journalism.
And I'd like to tell you that the pamphlet reached Memphis, and I'd like to tell you that it made a difference, but she never was able to go back home, though, because she was never welcomed again.
Sheesh.
All right,
Yeah.
she's in the Big Apple now.
Well, during this time, she moved and settled into Chicago.
Ah, Chicago.
Chicago.
In 1893, she showed up with these pamphlets in hand, along with some new material.
I got some new
got a
material I
new
want to try
drop
on you guys right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Show us.
I got my Type 5 ready for the Chuckle Hut.
Did you guys get the new Ida drop yet?
Well, so this time, Ida was boycotting the World's Exposition, the World's Columbian Exposition.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd the Colombians do?
Well, the people invited to participate in the expo were overwhelmingly white, and never being one to let that type of thing slide, Ida worked with local paper owner Ferdinand Barnett on a pamphlet that laid out the racist practices at work at the exposition's organization.
All right.
Okay.
She and a group of black activists stood around the entrances passing the pamphlets out and sharing their research with anyone who could take it. She also got along with that Ferdinand fellow, just a little bit.
What a fellow.
What a fella. In addition, she had just, because she fucking could, she went and helped found the Women's Era Club, which was a civic club for African American
See, it's a
ladies
civic.
in Chicago.
Oh, civic.
Yep. Her friend and Chicago activist Mary Richardson Jones was tapped for the first chair of the club, which lent gravitas and civility to the club. But Ida never let go of the upsets of the South, and she'd gotten good and busy trying to bring attention to these atrocities.
Yes,
And
do.
as activists are known to do, there were some women activists in the UK who decided to invite Ida to come do a tour of Scotland and England, speaking out on lynchings and begging for the help of a nation with powerful white people against the lynchings.
Okay. That's a good plan.
So she gets there, and these Brits are fucking horrified.
Oh.
The women who had invited her there had meant to invite Frederick Douglass, but he was in ill health by this point. He was fading. So he suggested that Ida go and be a replacement. By this time, they had had many letters between them. And basically, Frederick Douglass was like, Ida's your girl. That's the
Okay.
lady. So she went in 1893, and in 1894, when she was invited for a second speaking tour, she decided to tell about a paper in Chicago. She was like, hey, I'm about to go do this thing. And so the editor hired her to be a foreign correspondent during her tour and talk about her
okay.
travels. She was the first Black woman ever to be hired as a paid correspondent for a white-owned newspaper.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to celebrate for Ida. That's a big deal.
Woohoo!
And she made that connection.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
pretty cool.
So during her 1893 visit, she ended up in the UK on a speaking tour at the same time as fellow feminist and activist Frances Willard. Now, Frances was all about temperance, sobriety, and the organization that she was a part of was basically a whites-only club. Duh.
Yeah, okay.
Her club had chapters in every state where lynching was still a thing,
Great.
just conveniently enough. And she had been very specifically silent on the topic of lynchings.
Yeah. Get her. Get her, Ida.
So Ida was like, hey, this is a person who's also touring, but her values are not my values because she won't let me into the same meetings as her. Nor will she ever speak against this horrible thing that's happening. And pretty much after this point, the two sides never reconciled, at least not with Willard and Wells. That just, they stayed kind of little enemies for life.
I would not want to be a friend of Willard, no.
Ida had all of the same values of suffrage, but she saw that it didn't need to have a limit on who is allowed to participate. Like Black people.
Right.
By 1895, Ida was encouraging Black Southerners to move north.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Get out of there.
Yes. The Great Migration was a real exodus of Black people from the South to northern cities and western areas. And while they've been trickling north for decades, it's fairly agreed upon that 1910 was the start of it.
Okay.
Ida beat this by like 15 years, but that was already still part of like, there was already movement going north because you can only take so much of being just shit on every day, all the time for fucking
Having
ever.
to wonder
and having your
watch
life
your back.
threatened on a daily fucking basis.
What? Grow up.
Terrible. Yeah, Anyway.
Wouldn't want to
Get
watch
over
my
it.
back all the time. I already have to do that around men at
Yeah.
night.
What?
Well,
Or
so
anytime.
I don't believe anything that you're saying.
So Ida beat this by like
They're
15
terrible.
years.
I'm just goofing.
What'd you say?
I said men are terrible. I'm just
Yeah,
goofing.
no.
No,
we
men
know
are
you're
fucking
joking.
awful.
We know you're joking.
So Ida beat the migration by about 15 years, but she acted as that like canary in the coal mine kind of.
Yeah.
We
first
we
voice.
see a lot of this, especially lately with like the labor movements.
Mhm.
See a lot of it.
Did you hear my ankle crack? Is that what you're like?
Yes. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Sorry.
I was like hearing some tapping or something. Let's see. In Chicago, though, things were pretty different, and they were almost good.
Almost good.
Almost good.
Almost.
So she and
We
this,
strive for almost good.
That's
I mean,
Midwest
it was
promise.
There it
it
is.
was pretty good. Yeah,
The mediocrity runs thick.
Mhm.
I just needed to be okay.
Yeah.
Not great, just
It's
okay.
Almost good.
So she and the news guy Ferdinand, they had really hit it off.
Ooh.
And they had a lot of shared interests, and he already had like a family already. He was a widower, and he loved that she was really smart and feisty, and
Had a mind, maybe.
had a fucking brain for
That's
days. So, for Barnett, for his part, he founded the paper, the Chicago Conservator, which was the very first Black newspaper in Chicago.
I think I've heard of that. I should
It's
know.
still in operation today.
Excellent.
Yeah. And so he was doing okay money wise too. So
Okay,
the two got
stable.
married.
Married.
Da-dum-da-da.
So since she'd been writing for Barnett's paper for a while, she had a vested interest in the success of the business.
Ah, yes.
So Ferdinand went all in, and he also hired her as an editor for the paper.
Ooh, she never went back to Memphis. Did they buy her out of her ownership of
Remember,
that paper?
the white people took it over and sold it piece by piece.
Oh, is that what they did?
fucking
And
took
then-
over
Never
the
got
property.
Yeah.
They destroyed whatever they needed to
Fuck.
that they couldn't sell, and then sold what they
Anything
could.
for it.
Fuck.
Yeah, okay.
Well, they destroyed her entire livelihood. Yeah.
Yeah, like in a
Yeah.
fucking in days, it was like it had never existed.
Boo Radley.
There was nothing to get rid of. There was nothing to get bought
Wow,
out.
swift retribution.
Terrible. Yeah. She continued to write for other local papers, but she also stayed on as an editor for The Conservator for the rest of her life. Ferdinand had 2 kids already, and with Ida, they went on to have 4 more, which is a lot.
Yeah,
That's
it's
too
a lot
many.
of kids.
That's so many
It's too
heads.
many.
Yeah. So, but the family was wealthy. They had money. And in Chicago at that time, there was like actually such a thing as like black royalty, people who had kind of come up in civilized society.
Chicago's
and
pretty cool
knew
that way.
cotillion, that kind of shit.
Okay.
They had the right mannerisms. They'd been taught class and had, you know, they did their fancy dinners and
They
all
were
their balls and shit.
Taught to be like white people.
Yeah. now
Basically,
you're
all the
getting it.
mannerisms of white of civilized British.
The
white
pony
people.
show.
Yeah. So yeah, they have the money, but they don't get to do what they want with it. Really.
Yeah, I mean, they're blending into the rich society.
True.
You know?
True.
But I think Ferdinand was like part of that royalty, and so kind of already, and so she joined by by association and by the fact that she was smart and could pick that kind of shit up super quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and while it might have been for the wrong motives, it definitely still set him up for success. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, it literally all you had to do was behave yourself with decorum. That's it. So
Be a fancy pants.
yeah,
Be
you
a
can if
fancy
you can
pants.
pretend to be a fancy pants, you can be a fancy pants.
Yep.
Do my best, but I belt.
We've talked about this. The Sorry for Bothering You, the movie with Lakeith Stanfield, and they put on the white voice to like telemarket to people. It's that all over again, but 100
Sorry
years
for
ago.
bothering you.
Such a great movie.
At one point, the family even moved to a very wealthy neighborhood that wasn't on the other side of the train tracks, kind of where most poor neighborhoods were. It was in Chicago proper, like in the right neighborhood, in the right area. They had money. And here we will address some of the inconsistencies in racial bias and relations even within that race. So we talked about they could behave themselves with cotillion and all that. To the black royals, black people who had been enslaved or had been poor forever lacked the manners to behave like civilized society demands, which I find very interesting. And
I have many thoughts on that.
yeah, when you
Yeah,
don't
this is a
grow-
quote and not Lauren's opinion.
Yeah.
I had to read. I had to kind of go in and read a little bit more about this because I was trying to understand. Like, I don't understand why there's such a differentiation, and it was really because like the black royalty had learned to behave themselves like white people, and black people from the South who had grown up in a different culture and had never had to do that, had never grown up in a society where they're going to basically teach you until you are behaving like that.
They're not worried about what fork does what.
No, they're worried about where their next meal's coming from, and you know, they've got other things on their mind,
housing,
and they're just themselves. They're not trying to be anybody that they're not.
I would
not getting
also,
lynched.
oh yeah, for sure. I would also love to recap this and have an actual black person talk to us about this.
Oh fuck yeah, I would
So
love
we're not
that.
just white splaining.
I do
all of
not
this.
understand this in the least bit, because I can't have that perspective on it.
Yeah. I digress.
Either way, I'm sorry. But Ida, she fit in. She was fine. She was able to kind of assimilate, no problem.
Okay.
And in 1895, so about 2 years after she got there, she published another work on lynchings. And this time it contained 14 pages worth of data and statistics of lynchings just in the time since the last publication.
Yeah.
So 3 years.
Yeah. Damn.
This work was called The Red Record, and it was 100 pages long.
Woo!
Yes. For this one, she came out fucking swinging.
Do it.
So here's the first few paragraphs of her pamphlet.
Okay, we're ready.
The student of American sociology will find the year 1894 marked by a pronounced awakening of the public conscience to a system of anarchy and outlawry which had grown during a series of 10 years to be so common that scenes of unusual brutality failed to have any visible effect upon the humane sentiments of the people of our land. Beginning with the emancipation of the Negro, the inevitable result of unbridled power exercised for 2.5 centuries by the white man over the Negro began to show itself in acts of conscienceless outlawry. During a slave regime, The Southern white man owned the Negro body and soul. It was to his interest to dwarf the soul and preserve the body. Vested with unlimited power over his slave to subject him to any and all kinds of physical punishment, the white man was still restrained from such punishment as tended to injure the slave by abating his physical powers and thereby reducing his financial worth. While slaves were scourged mercilessly and in countless cases inhumanly treated in other respects, still the white owner rarely permitted his anger to go so far as to take a life, which would entail upon him a loss of several $100s.
Yeah, that's the only reason is to not murder this person.
The slave was rarely killed. He was too valuable. It was easier and quite as effective for discipline or revenge to sell him, quote unquote, down south.
God.
But emancipation came, and the vested interests of the white man in the Negro's body were lost. The white man had no right to scourge the emancipated Negro, still less has he the right to kill him. But the Southern white people had been educated so long in that school of practice, in which might makes right, that they disdained to draw strict lines of action in dealing with the Negro. In the slave times, the Negro was kept subservient and submissive by the frequency and severity of the scourging, but with freedom, a new system of intimidation came into vogue. The Negro was not only whipped and scourged, he was killed.
Yeah. They were like, well, if we can't own you, then now we can kill you.
Yep.
That is... Yeah, I can't map my mind around that either.
Yeah. She included in it a history of lynchings since the Emancipation Proclamation, which I won't get into as much for this one, but she also included a letter from Frederick Douglass.
Let me give you thanks for your faithful paper on the lynch abomination now generally practiced against colored people in the South. There has been no word equal to it in convincing power. I have spoken, but my word is feeble in comparison. You give us what you know, and testify from actual knowledge. You have dealt with the facts with cool, painstaking fidelity, and left those naked and uncontradicted facts to speak for themselves. Brave woman, you have done your people and mine a service which can neither be weighed nor measured. If the American conscience were only half alive, if the American church and clergy were only half Christianized, if American moral sensibility were not hardened by persistent infliction of outrage and crime against colored people, a scream of horror, shame, and indignation would rise to heaven wherever your pamphlet shall be read. But alas, even crime has power to reproduce itself and create conditions favorable to its own existence. It sometimes seems we are deserted by earth and heaven, yet we must still think, speak, and work, and trust in the power of a merciful God for final deliverance.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
Yes. She's bringing out a little palate cleanser, though.
What do you call a line of rabbits walking backwards?
A receding hairline.
Ah, you knew that one.
You're welcome. I also read Laffy Taffies.
Ah.
Don't cite the dark magic to me, witch. I was there.
The popsicle sticks.
The popsicle sticks have spoken.
Yeah, right.
So there was, in Douglas's eyes, 3 years of Southern barbarism, and there were 3 excuses for this behavior. So reason the first excuse for the world, to the civilized world, for the murder of unoffending Negroes was the necessity of the white man to repress and stamp out the alleged quote-unquote race riots, which they never are race riots. They're peaceful gatherings that turn fucking terrible. This was always explained to the North or anyone asking a quelling of an uprising. An insurrection was being planned by hundreds of black men, and only by the grace of these events were those disastrous insurrections stopped.
Oh my God. Irony again. The insurrection that we saw with recorded footage.
That they're now blurring out.
Are they blurring them out?
Republicans are blurring it out to keep it from the DOJ because they don't want certain people to get in trouble for just being there.
Yeah. Come on, man.
It's
were
great.
Stomping through Congress halls, going through, sitting.
And that's definitely the same reason that only black men got hurt in those things as well, obviously.
Yeah.
But that excuse got so fucking old, and it really got old after a lot of variations, and people got bored, and so they started asking questions. It was too much to ask thoughtful people to believe this transparent story, and the Southern white people at last made up their minds that some other excuse must be had. So the second reason, quote, which had its birth during the turbulent times of Reconstruction. By an amendment to the Constitution of the Negro was given the right of franchise, and theoretically at least his ballot became his invaluable emblem of citizenship. In a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, the Negro's vote became an important factor in all matters of state and national politics, unquote. It should have been a white man's government, and these murders were rooted in fear of black domination for representative government. And the deaths and beatings were a brutal way to keep the black population from showing up to the ballot box, and in many times preventing them from registering to vote at all.
Yeah, they did everything they could to keep them from voting.
But still, the black man persisted. They bettered their stations. This was the fucking worst thing of all for white people, that they were good at business and they were living on their own. This was the third reason. Brutality still continued. Negroes were whipped, scourged, exiled, shot, and hung whenever and wherever it pleased the white man so to treat him. And as the civilized world with increasing persistency held the white people of the South to account for its outlawry, the murderers invented the third excuse, that Negroes had to be killed to avenge their assaults upon women.
What?
There could be framed no possible excuse more harmful to the Negro and more unanswerable, if true, in sufficiency for the white man.
Oh, don't put this on us.
That's a hot take.
One of my favorite quotes, though. But threats cannot suppress the truth, and while the Negro suffers the soul deformity resultant from 2.5 centuries of slavery, he is no more guilty of this vilest of all vile charges than the white man who would blacken his name.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess there you have it. Yeah, your turn to read the racist thing.
Is that why it's in red?
No, this is, I think this is, well, yes, it is going to be a racist thing, yeah.
This whole episode is discussing the racism.
I told you, we got to get into it.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's history. We got to live through it again.
Yep.
In his remarkable apology for lynching, Bishop Haygood of Georgia says, "No race, not the most savage, tolerates the rape of woman. But it may be said without reflection upon any other people that the Southern people are now and always have been most sensitive concerning the honor of their women, their mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters. It is not the purpose of this defense to say one word against the white women of the South. Such need not be said, but it is their misfortune that the chivalrous white men of that section, in order to escape the deserved excretion? But it sounds like execration.
It was probably mistyped
Oh, sure.
at some point.
Well,
Maybe they didn't say excretion because everybody thinks shit. I don't know. We'll find out. I'll start
figure
over
it
the
out.
sentence.
No. Execrate. To execrate means to feel or express great loathing for.
Okay.
So they deserve to be hated.
Yeah, there it
for
is.
their okay. Such need not be said, but it is their misfortune that the chivalrous white men of that section, in order to escape the deserved execration of the civilized world, should shield themselves by their cowardly and infamously false excuse.
Yeah, if this is the world that we're living in, then we deserve to loathe it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And call into question that very honor about which their distinguished priestly apologist claims they are most sensitive. To justify their own barbarism, they assume a chivalry which they do not possess. True chivalry respects all womanhood, and no one who reads the record, as it is written in the faces of the million mulattoes in the South, will for a minute conceive that the Southern white man had a very chivalrous regard for the honor due the woman of his own race, or respect for the womanhood which circumstances placed in his power. That chivalry, which is most sensitive concerning the honor of women, can hope for but little respect from the civilized world, when it confines itself entirely to the woman or women who happen to be white. Virtue knows no color line, and that chivalry which depends upon complexion of skin and texture of hair can command no honest respect."
Well, then.
But eventually I was like, oh, I know what she's saying.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what I was saying earlier. Oh, you're going to be honorable and chivalrous, but you're the murderer, lyncher, rapist, predator, pedophile.
Pedophile. I like it.
She also didn't let Frances Willard, slip completely from the UK tours. She dedicated an entire chapter to, quote, Ms. Willard's attitude.
Her fucking attitude. Not just her name, but her attitude.
In which she went after Willard for promoting violence and crime against African Americans.
Yeah.
Girl held a fucking grudge.
Yeah, and is like, I'm going to expose your racism.
Do something about it,
bitch.
yeah.
Over the next few years, Ida was known for her obvious activism, but she had kiddos now, so that meant that her brain was also elsewhere. In 1900, her kids were around the age when they'd be going to school. As a former teacher, Ida was more aware than most that the importance of an early education and the access to educational resources and how much of a difference it makes in life opportunities. She was also becoming more aware than most about the lack of Black-led schools in the area. She saw that gap and she decided to fill it. According to Ida's great-granddaughter, Michelle Duster, quote, when her older children started getting school age, she recognized that Black children did not have the same kind of educational opportunities as some other students, and so her attitude was, well, since it doesn't exist, we'll create it ourselves. So she did. In 1908, she and her husband founded the Negro Fellowship League, which was a Black alternative to the YMCA, which at the time did not allow Black people into their facilities.
How very Christian of them.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the YMCA, for their part, only let them join in 1967 when they faced being shut down as the alternative.
Yeah, so that's great.
So Ida and I just want to call him Ferdy. Ferdy Barnett. Ida and Ferdy made the Negro Fellowship League, the NFL, and boarded the young men there.
They made the NFL? Yeah! The OGs.
The NFL didn't just provide housing. They worked with men to play football.
Thank you, Roger Goodell.
They worked with men to find employment and more permanent housing because a lot of the people coming to the settlement home were young men from the Great Migration. That was getting started in full force at this point.
Yeah, completely abandoning everything they knew in the South and coming up.
Pipeline to Chicago.
Yeah,
That's
pipeline.
a whole new world. They need help for setting up.
Well, yeah, and then it's a safe space for them to get to when they get there. Someone that knows, that understands what they've just been through,
Said, fuck this
understands what
sharecropping
they're
shit.
going to need for a little while, and can help support them.
The city is ours.
Yes. Because Ida had never been one to back down from calling out an injustice, people found her a little bit difficult to swallow sometimes. And when Frederick...
a little up front.
A little bit.
That woman won't stop speaking her mind.
When Frederick Douglass died in 1895, the idea that Ida might take over as the next spokesperson for Black activism and equal rights. But she was a severe, brutal woman. She was a woman.
Bitter pill
Doesn't
to
hold back.
swallow.
It doesn't matter. She was severe, she was brutal, and worst of all, she had a vagina.
Oh, that was the thing.
She could be severe and brutal if she had a dick, because that would just be like all the other assertive men, you know?
Power's in the penis. You heard it here first.
Man.
Semen is a demon, let it out, let it out. Semen is a demon, let it out, let it out.
Women let men on top once and they just took over from there.
Oh, God, I know.
On your knees, begging pretty, pretty, please. Semen is a demon. You gotta let it out.
Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois were more than happy to take up the mantle of the next spokesperson, but Ida...
Du Bois is a cool name, man.
It is. But Ida was too extreme because she spoke truth to power. She wasn't gonna let anyone get by.
She was too real.
Well, these guys were like, you know what? Choose your arguments. Choose the things that you want to really argue for or really fight for.
And she wanted to fight for everything she could.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
If it was an injustice, she was going to call it out. And they were like, choose your battles.
Much.
Yeah, it's like you got to play ball, and she's like, nah, fuck the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not here to play games.
Right.
I'm here to fuck shit up and let everybody know.
You interviewing as a team?
So when Willard was, saying that Ida was too extreme with all of the feminist ramblings about lynchings and all that, she's like, just a little much, None of this stopped her, so she still helped found the school. She continued on with the paper. She still wrote for other papers. She participated in women's suffrage the whole time, and she did catch flack once or twice, maybe for being distracted around Susan B. Anthony. Which,
Distracted.
you can't be distracted around Susan B. Anthony.
Distracted how?
I think it was like once she started having kids, Susan was like, she's not here as much. Her brain's not here all the time.
Well, kids are
Distracting.
fucking handful.
Yeah. She started an autobiography, but she
Hashtag
didn't.
mom life.
Not that I know.
Half-finished projects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sandwich in the corner that just someone forgot about at one point.
Oh no, I've
Crusty
heard about
piece of bread.
a friend of mine's a mom. She's like, dude, I just ate the taco off. The kid dropped it. You don't want that quesadilla?
Oh
Off
my
the
God,
floor,
that's
yeah,
a low
right.
moment.
I don't feel like
Ugh.
making another one.
Well, she was like, I didn't have time to make my own
Yeah,
breakfast.
there
So
it
if
is.
you're going to drop the breakfast I made, I'm going to eat it off the floor.
I just mopped the floor. It's fine.
So she told me, and I was like, I get it. I would understand that
It's
moment.
like that
I would not
sometimes.
judge you, ma'am.
So she started an autobiography, but she never finished it. And she was present at the founding of the NAACP in 1909, but her name was interestingly absent from the founders.
Why?
W.E.B. Du Bois said that there had been he said that she had been there. In a book later, he said she'd chosen not to be included. She was like,
Does that sound
I
like
don't
a
need to
girl?
be part of it. In her autobiography that she'd been drafting, she stated he'd purposely excluded her.
See, yeah, that sounds like something that, given the conversation of she's too much, she's too harsh,
Yep.
he did not want her acknowledged at all.
Yeah, why would right, like why would she not want to have her name on it? Like what?
Yeah, she
Come
was
on.
real.
She'd been working on this kind of shit for decades.
As a reporter, you gotta be like,
Yeah.
listen, you've been complaining about this loudmouth bitch the whole time. Now she doesn't want her name in the thing. This sounds fishy.
Yeah. That's suspect.
Liar.
Liar!
Liar! It's news.
Telegram.
Elsewhere in suffrage news, Illinois was a-bubbling with suffrage activity over the last few years.
Fuck yeah,
I think you
Illinois.
mean Illinois.
Illinois. Ida had become good friends with other women in the area we commonly associate with suffrage. Susan B. Anthony, Belle Squire, Virginia Brooks. Illinois was also one of the asshole states that brought the right to vote partially before it brought it fully.
Oh.
The partial suffrage, quote, gave women in the state the right to vote for presidential electors, mayor, aldermen, and most other local offices, but they couldn't vote for governor, state representatives, or members of Congress.
Because they knew that's where the real decisions get made.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
going to say, they're just like, oh, we're going to make it seem like you're doing the big stuff because president. But
Yeah.
like,
There you go.
yeah.
Racism was still alive and well in circles, and sure enough, the women's movement was absolutely no different. The women's suffrage groups who had a large effect on legislation notably excluded black women.
Mm-hmm.
So Ida decided to fix that too. In January 1913, she created the Alpha Suffrage Club, which was an integrated suffrage society working towards equal voting rights for women, black or white.
The
That's right.
alfalfa
They're the
suffrage movement.
alphas.
The Alfalfa.
The alfalfas.
This entire time, she's still writing, she's still doing her investigative reporting, she's publishing reports that would make our fucking dumb CNN articles that we read just wither in comparison.
Blow your balls
She
off.
could go on about a bitch.
Oh, I love that.
And during the Great War, she was labeled as a dangerous, quote, race agitator.
You know what? A race agitator. What a weird way of putting that.
She likes to stir the pot.
Yeah, basically.
Freedom fighter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But I would love being called dangerous. I'm not going to lie. I would love to be called dangerous. What? I'm not.
Listen.
I know.
In my mind, that's the second kink you've revealed on this podcast today.
No, it's not even.
I love when we get a little bit of a
First
look
the
into,
candles, now the danger.
Oh. I was joking about the candles.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
always
sure.
joking. Uh-huh.
Don't
So
start
she-
rumors about
oh.
me now.
God, what kind of rumors could we even start?
That
I'm
Hannah's a
joking
dominatrix on
around.
the weekends.
Oh yeah, a leather mommy,
A leather mommy.
Dommy mommy.
Dommy mommy. There
I would
we
love,
go.
no, here's what I really want. I want to be a financial dominatrix.
Oh,
Have you
dude,
seen
me
that
too.
shit?
That's like my
Yeah.
dream. Yeah,
That's every girl's dream
Yeah.
sometimes, every modern woman.
all of the perks, none of the sex. Oh,
However,
yeah, and all of the domination. There it is. Like, yeah, you disrespected me. Buy me shoes.
where am I?
Anyway,
Dystopia.
It's like a half joke.
we're going back to the Great War. So she was labeled a dangerous race agitator.
Yes.
She could not have given less of a fuck, and so she continued.
Dangerous.
Heard it all before.
Yeah, she's heard
Dangerous race agitator sounds like an extreme like washing machine.
Right, and she'd been called way worse in the South, so that was fucking nothing.
I do not want that washing machine.
Me neither. Might bite you.
I know. Like, damn.
In 1917, after a particularly brutal race riot in St. Louis, she wrote a series of investigative reports on the event. In 1921, she finally returned to the South. It had been 29 years since she left,
Oof.
and the return was to report on a massacre in Arkansas. She spent months investigating and researching the event before her findings were published in 1922.
Yeah.
She supported the Black labor movement when maids, bellboys, and drivers were trying to organize. She was part of a number of social organizations focused on empowering Black voices and working towards equality. She had leadership positions in a few, but as time went on, she just lost votes. New people came into their own time. It's how it goes. All this energy had to go somewhere over the years. She'd spent so much time, so much rage writing about all of this stuff, and then she was able to kind of get away from it, and she was able to work on bigger things, which should be a fucking testament. Like, when you don't have to worry about one thing hanging over your head, it's amazing the other shit you can get done.
Yeah.
She decided in the late 20s that she wanted to run for office. Just cuz.
Yeah, go. Get it.
Go for it. So she created the Third Ward Women's Political Club in 1927, and she wanted to be a delegate at the RNC, but Oscar DePriest was a more attractive option to them at the time.
Okay, who's that?
I have no fucking clue.
All right.
That was who they wanted, though.
They chose wrong.
Her feelings toward the Republican Party became more mixed due to what she viewed as the Hoover administration's poor stance on civil rights and attempts to promote a lily-white policy in Southern Republican organizations. In 1930, Wells unsuccessfully sought elective office, running as an independent for a seat in the Illinois Senate against the Republican Party candidate Adelbert Roberts. Adelbert, yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Adelbert.
Yeah.
Adelbert.
Every morning you greet me.
Nice.
All right, so that was pretty much her life. She died at the age of 68 after a whole life of fucking activism.
Wow.
Only at
She-
68?
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn.
She died in March of 1931, but she'd been suffering from kidney disease for a long time. So
Oh,
she'd been
wow.
fighting through it for years and had still just kept working as long as she could.
That's no fucking joke.
Yeah.
Kidney disease is terrifying. I need to drink more water. That reminds me.
This is everyone's reminder.
Everyone's
Go
reminder.
drink some fucking
Just your
water.
check-in.
Yeah.
Just checking in.
Go get some nice cold water.
Get
I'm going
hydrated.
to fill up after this pod.
You gotta hydrate.
Yeah.
Since then, schools, scholarships, statues, endowments, and programs have all been named after an OG investigative researcher. The Ida B. Wells Award is given in various organizations for various reasons, but they all center around what Ida was known for, which was overcoming personal hardships, persevering, her pioneering spirit, and quote-unquote courage.
Her bluntness,
Yes.
her realness. Let's not sugarcoat. She was a real bitch. We love it.
This was a fucking crazy topic, but I think right now more than ever, Ida and her work that she's done need to actually be understood because, first of all, obviously, racism has not gotten better in the fucking South. Like,
It's gone nowhere.
No, it's gone nowhere. It's still bad.
We thought it was getting better. It's not.
But all of her work in investigative research is so limited now. We don't really have many of those people that do that anymore, or they're broken into just little bite-sized things that we can process instead of just laying it all out there. Here it fucking is. Here's what's going on. I wish that we got way more of that.
Yeah, I would think the type of reporting that Ida B. Wells did really could have been, and it really should be that way again in many ways because of all, police deaths or deaths in police custody, women who are raped in police custody, particularly women of color.
Yeah.
And it's something now that
women whose deaths aren't investigated because they're the least dead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm broke as hell but I still try to do the tiny bit that I can. I know one foundation that I donate to monthly is the, oh my God, I knew the name of it.
The Hammer Foundation.
The Hammer Foundation.
It's not the Hammer Foundation.
Bringing our own hammers.
Oh my God. I was singing praises of it 2 days ago and my brain is blanking. It's a foundation for providing resources to find missing Black women.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
And I cannot remember the name of it all of a sudden. Hold on.
We'll make a Facebook post of it when
I'll
have
put it in the cliff notes.
I will have the name and everything in the description. Missing
That sounds great.
Black. I'm gonna look it up really quick though because I want to name the name.
I'm gonna do one last little joke. I told my dad it was finally time for him to embrace his mistakes. He cried and hugged my sister and me.
What an embrace.
What an embrace.
What is the name of it?
That's Ida.
Ida. You're a true inspiration.
Yep.
That was a nice lady doing good things for the culture.
Because she could. Because she...
Felt like she had to. Yeah.
Yep, she had to. She had no choice, basically.
Yeah, I would love to hear a Black historian or just somebody who knows more about it from that side of things tell us about it.
A lot of the research that I did were when I was researching the topic, I watched a lot of documentaries that were made by Black people.
Yeah, I figured
that were all discussing the kind of the culture of the time and how the world kind of existed. That was how I got the information about there was apparently a little bit of inter-class bias within the race at that point in Chicago was these little documentaries that I watched.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, not the one that I donate to. Now I have to go double check what I'm donating to. But the other one that you can donate to is Black and Missing. They have a foundation as well.
All right.
But the one that I'm thinking of was named after a famous Black man, actually. But I cannot remember the name all of a sudden, and I literally am ashamed of myself that I can't remember the name.
Don't
but
be
I will
ashamed
put
of
it
yourself.
I will put it in the description. It will be in the description, as long as well as links to both websites.
Put away your shame.
Sounds good.
I will put my shame away. I will save it for a rainy day.
There you go.
And until another day, that's been our fucking show.
It's been a fucking podcast.
Socials. So
yes,
you
yes,
kind
all
of know
on
where
the
to find
website.
us, and yeah.
Yay! Well, thanks for listening.
Peace.
Bye.